sometimes who you think you are is just who you've had to be. And that's really delicate work of looking at what are the ways I push people away? What are the ways I won't ask for help? What are the ways, especially when it comes to confidence with women, what are the ways I can't even accept a compliment?
This is By Joey Joanne Season 2. I'm your host, Joanne Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Joining us today is a confidence and relationship coach with 3 degrees in psychology and who helps people heal emotional patterns, expand self-worth, and create healthier relationships. Drawing from both extensive professional training and profound lived experience, she specializes in emotional healing, communication, boundaries, energy psychology, and conscious relationship dynamics. Her work focuses on practical tools that help people stop repeating old patterns and start showing up with clarity, confidence, and emotional integrity in their relationships and lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming the transformational psychology coach, confidence and relationship mentor, and the creator of the reclamation method, the one and only Tori Jenae. Tori, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation.
I'm really excited to have you here as well. So let's just dive right into the topic, your work. This is my personal experience as well. I've been podcasting for 4 years and counting. I've done a lot of personal development work. I learned a lot from people who came on the show, right? And I read a lot of books. I attended a lot of seminars. Yet like I understand, smart self-aware people often understand our patterns intellectually. Like we understand in our mind, yet we still repeat them. So I just want to know what is really happening beneath awareness that keeps these patterns or cycles alive.
Yes, that's such a great question. It's in the mind and the body. And that's what's really hard for us to understand. And I'm someone who grew up with a lot of trauma, so I understand this from like a lived experience too. It's never just like, oh, I read this in a book. It's like I had my first degree in psychology, and so I could understand all of my patterns, my programs, and like my attachment style, but I couldn't figure out why I couldn't stop my responses and my triggers and all those kinds of things. And so what we know is, first of all, there's 2 parts of the mind, the conscious and the subconscious. So the conscious is our awareness. It's our higher self. It's our who we know we can be, what we know we're capable of, all those things. It's us intellectualizing, looking at our patterns, but the subconscious pattern, which are within us, some psychologists say are 90% of our brain and what's running us. It is what makes our heart beat, our lungs breathe. It's the part of you that when you get in a car and you drive somewhere that you've been 1,000 times before and you kind of zone out and all of a sudden you end up at your destination, you don't actually know how they got there. Yeah. That is your subconscious mind taking over. So most of us are in that place, especially when we're triggered. So even though I'm this highly aware, conscious person who's done all this work, until I can really understand my subconscious programming, which is from my childhood, my patterns, my beliefs, and then my nervous system, which is trying to keep me safe. So it's like if my partner says something and I react to that deeply, it's not because I'm not smart, I'm not self-aware, I'm not doing my work. It's because it actually hasn't landed yet in my subconscious and in my nervous system. So there's a difference between knowing consciously what my problems are and knowing that maybe I have an anxious attachment style and that when my boyfriend doesn't text me, I freak out, but I can't stop myself from doing that or looking at my phone 400 times. It's because I haven't really gotten to the core of what that is about. So I'm just using that example because it's such an easy one with like our confidence and dating, and it shows up for so many people. That is really about a fear of abandonment. So it's healing that at a deeper level. And then also healing my body and teach my body that it's safe, that even if someone abandons me, I will be okay. And that's much harder, deeper work to do than we do in a book, than we do in a lot of work.
Yeah. So you mentioned what comes after awareness, which is teaching our body that this is safe for me to respond. I don't know. So how do we teach? Because just by saying to ourselves like this is safe, I'm safe, right? It's not gonna work, I believe. Yeah, what does it look like?
It can help though to say like I'm safe right now, I'm calm, like take the fastest way is always your breath. But
Mm,
self-talk matters always. I always think like how can I do something on the level of the mind, the body and the soul? But mentally, how do I get out of that? I do start saying like, okay, it's safe. I'm okay. I can be calm. Take a moment to respond. Pause. That's the mental side of it. The physical side is deep breathing. So I know it sounds so trite and lots of people talk about this, but the nervous system, the only thing that really connects our consciousness to our nervous system is breath. And so that's taking 4 counts in, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale 8 or more. So
mm.
that starts telling the nervous system it's safe. It's a physical reminder. You can also tap on your body, like on the K27 points. So just bring your body down. But it's something, if you're really upset and really triggered, you have to complete the stress response. That means I need to take a quick walk. I need to get up. I need to move. If you get, like, let's say you're at work, you get triggered by an email, you're really mad. Get up, walk around the office, go get a drink of water. Like, physically move yourself to discharge the energy. That will put you back. Like you have to have a pause between the reaction and the response, or sorry, like the stimulus and the response. And that's where all of your power is. That's how you start retraining your nervous system. So even if, like, let's say I get really triggered, if I say like, okay, I've got to stop, think about this, even if someone's talking to me in front of me, I can say, I need a second to think about this. Give me a second to respond. Let me take a breath. Like it's regrounding myself in that moment. And then I believe energy work, energy psychology, EFT tapping, um, cranial. There's so many different things we can do to really get into the nervous system at a much deeper level. But those simple free tools are pause, breathe, complete the stress cycle. And that means as simple as a walk. Like a 5-minute walk will calm your nervous system if you're, especially if you are particularly in fight or flight, more than anything else, quickly.
So how about on the soul level, since you mentioned mind, body, and soul, is there anything we can do on the soul level so that we won't get triggered at all? Like we're so zen, and calm.
I've been working on this for a long time. So I've studied the Vedas, Buddhism, Kabbalah, you name it, for like 26 years. And I've tried to find what's the golden thread, what's the wisdom in all of them. And the best way to see it is that the soul's here to evolve, it's here to learn. And so each thing that comes up, that's my soul's lesson. That is my soul's desire this lifetime. So if I have a fear of abandonment, that's what I'm here to heal. So it's recognizing there's nothing wrong with me, that it's actually part of my curriculum this lifetime. It is how I am meant to grow. And when I overcome that, then I get the love, the joy, the things that I want. So I think spirituality can really give you the perspective of connecting you to something greater. And I'll give you a personal example from my own life, which is really, I think is more helpful. I was born in a very difficult situation. And I love to tell this story because today I live in Beverly Hills, California. I have 3 psychology degrees. Where I come from, you'd never in a million years imagined that. I was actually conceived by my mother in a heroin rehab facility. Both my parents had drug addiction. I was raised in a horrible situation. And most people look at that their whole life and say, like, why did that happen to me? Why did such terrible things happen? Why was I born to that person? Right? And spirituality helped me see that, like, no, I was born to those parents because they challenged me in ways, they made me grow. They made me who I am. Like, if I hadn't faced that difficulty so early in life, I never would have been interested in psychology. I never would have wanted to heal myself. I never would have went down this path. And so spirituality can give you that connection to something higher, give it meaning, and give yourself purpose. And purpose is what we need to get through anything.
Right. So since you mentioned about your childhood and your
Mhm.
upbringing, how do how do early emotional wounds or our childhood quietly shape our confidence choices or the way that we show up in the world today?
Oh, that's such a powerful, like such a powerful question because it's so true. It really does shape it, and a lot of us don't recognize it. We feel like we're blaming our parents, and it's not about that. It's really like our parents are our first mirrors of ourselves, And so even if our parents are just emotionally unavailable or or they're busy with work, we can feel neglected, we can feel like we don't matter. And then we show up in the world like we don't matter. And so it's really taking that look back at what happened in my past. Like if I have a really critical parent, I'm going to be really critical of myself. If I had a parent that I didn't feel like was there for me, I'm probably gonna, it's like if you attract emotionally unavailable men, one of your parents was emotionally unavailable. Like I hate to tell you that, but
Yeah.
I've never seen it not be true. so, so a lot of women come to me and they're like, oh, I'm lacking confidence. I'm out there dating. I'm such a amazing woman, but I keep getting the emotionally unavailable guy. And I'm like, hey, I've been there. I get it. But it's really because some way in our childhood, our emotions were not met. They were not taken care of. Even if your parents were there and they took care of you, it doesn't mean they were bad parents. It just means that maybe your parents worked all the time. Maybe your mom was hypercritical of your weight. Maybe you had even a coach that was always telling you you're not good enough. That becomes the external mirror of our childhood becomes the internal voice of our adulthood.
Right. So, these early experiences can shape our identity in invisible ways, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you help people separate who they truly are from who they had to become to survive? Whether it's trauma, abuse, or all the other emotional wounds they have experienced.
Yeah. It's not easy work to do because we create these strategies in life to survive, and they're very helpful. One of my survival strategies was like being hyper independent, never needing anyone, never asking anyone for help. That was a huge part of who I was. I'm the strong, independent woman. Well, it's really hard to be in a love relationship when you're like that, right? So it's kind of recognizing that like sometimes who you think you are is just who you've had to be. And that's really delicate work of looking at what are the ways I push people away? What are the ways I won't ask for help? What are the ways, especially when it comes to confidence with women, what are the ways I can't even accept a compliment? Because those are the things that like that means that like we either think we're too much, we think we're not enough, all those kinds of things. We have to really like look at like if I was not labeling myself as a mom, a sister, a wife, a, a lawyer, whatever we call ourselves, who would I be without all of that? And a lot of us can't answer that question. You ask a woman who she is, and she'll tell you her role. And so it's
Yeah.
getting back like to the blueprint of your soul, like what lights you up. What would you be doing if you knew you had 6 months to live? That's who you really are. What would you say to people if you weren't afraid? What would you be doing if you knew you couldn't fail? These are the kind of questions that start to unlock who we truly are underneath all the roles, responsibilities, and traumas that we've experienced.
So since you talk about, I mean, confidence is a huge part, of your work, and it's often misunderstood as performance or loud personality, right? So how do you define confidence that comes from embodiment rather than proving our worth or proving that I'm good enough or performing?
Yeah, confidence gets really confused, even in psychology. Like we kind of see confidence as competence. Like, of course, we feel confident in things that we do well, and we don't want to do things we don't do well. And confidence is like, we kind of have this perception that confidence means that I'll never be afraid. I'll always feel good walking into any room. I'll want to talk to any person I want to talk to. And that's not what it really is. Confidence, you have true confidence when you don't need that, like a ton of validation from other people. It means you feel good in your own skin about yourself, just like you're proud of who you are and you know who you are. And you're still going to be scared shitless to do things because that's human. You're still going to have to grow. You're still going to be unsure of yourself. Confidence doesn't give you any of that. Confidence tells you that I'm going to do it anyway when I'm scared. Confidence says, I'll be okay even if that person leaves me. I'll be okay even if I lose that job. Like I was so a type A high performer. I needed a lot of that like, success. And by the time I was 30, I was making six figures and I was really killing myself to push and to be the best. And I needed a lot of like my boss telling me all the time how good I was. And like, I wanted to become indispensable. And now it's funny in my work, I'm probably the most successful on some level I've ever been, but I don't talk about it. I don't care. I don't need anyone to tell me. Um, I downplay what I even like. I was at a party with my boyfriend, and he was like, "I can't believe you didn't tell them." Like they were like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm like I was trained as a therapist. I'm a coach now." I just wasn't really a big deal. And he's like, "You work with people all over the world. Like we did a retreat in London." Like he's like, "Why don't you tell people all this?" And it's like, I don't need them to. I don't need to be special. I feel good about myself. I feel good about the work that I do.
So what shifted your behavior or your perspective? You were a type A performer. So what shifted?
Well, I had to undo a lot of that. Trust me. I literally had to like sit with myself and be like, my worth is not tied to my performance. My worth, like me being a valuable human being, is not how much output I can do, which is kind of how I viewed myself early on. Because I grew up in the way that I did, and I really wanted to be successful, I really wanted to be secure, I really wanted to have money, all these things I never grew up with. I wanted to give myself security that I never had. So I understood why I did it, but I really had to almost let some of those parts of myself like die, for lack of a better word. Like that, like I kind of joke that I said like this corporate Tori who like tried to kill herself to prove how worthy she was and how great she was and how successful she was. And, the company I worked for put me on private jets and all kinds of stuff, right? And now I could care less about any of that. But it was really because I got to the root of like what truly makes me happy. Like when I was 30 years old, I had everything I was supposed to have. I had the house, the car, the husband, the job, the degree. And I woke up and I still felt miserable. And I was like, I don't understand. I did everything I'm supposed to do. And it's because I wasn't living my truth. I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to do. And what I really wanted was freedom. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to travel more. I wanted all these things that were against the norm of life. And so I had to deconstruct my entire life at that time. But I always invite people to start small. Like, what's one thing you're doing all the time that you actually hate or really drains you? And how can you stop doing it? How can you let it go? How can you realize it doesn't define you? Like, busyness is not a badge of honor. It's not going to make, like, if you have that hole of not enough in your heart, nothing outside of you will ever fill it. The only thing that will make you feel better is being connected to your true self, doing things that matter to you. And personally believe being connected to something greater than ourselves, whether that's the universe, nature, God, whatever you want to call it.
But we all know that rebuilding our life, could be difficult. Whether it's quitting a job, starting a business, or going through a heartbreak, right, a divorce, is so difficult. Or even
Hmm.
just losing a loved one, right? So what advice would you give to people who wants to start over? Like they hate their job so much. Like this is the thing they do.
Yeah.
After listening to this episode, like they just want to quit their job, like do something that matters to them. So what would be your suggestion or what advice would you give to people?
Yeah, just know that you're going to be okay and that just to take one small step at a time and that it's always going to be terrifying and that it's never too late. And I will share my own, like, I've lost both of my parents. I've lost my older sister. So I've been through that. I quit my corporate job, which was very secure at like 32, threw away a 12-year career at the height of my game to start my own business, which was terrifying. And I went through a divorce in my early 40s and I've done it all. And that was literally an 18-year marriage that was not terrible. It just was not aligned anymore. And walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to sell my home, split up our family. It was not easy. So I'm prefacing that so that people know that I'm not saying this as someone who's never walked through that fire. Just know that every time you burn everything down, you can build it so much better and in so much more alignment with who you truly are and what you truly want. And that the pain will always precede the beauty. Like it's always darkest before the dawn. Like when I left my marriage, I thought it was like the end all be all, right? It was just like, I can't believe I just spent 18 years of my life, the best years of my life with, like in the wrong marriage and all these kinds of things. And then you got out there and it's like, there was a total life waiting for me on the other side. And in that moment, it felt hopeless. So I just share when you feel hopeless, when you feel like you don't know what to do, just take the next right step, no matter how small it is. If you want to leave that job, if you need to get a part time job to be the bridge out of it, or you need to stay at that job for a little while you build your side hustle, just know that if you take some kind of action, some kind of step, you will slowly build it brick by brick into the next chapter of your life. And I don't care if you're 70.
Beautiful.
You're going to be 75, so you're going to be happy and miserable. Which one do you want?
That is so true, right? So how about okay, let's come back to healing because for someone, and I want to ask this question because I know a lot of my friends again, I'm observing, right, people around me, they feel constantly on edge or they are like emotionally overwhelmed. So where would be the first most grounded place to begin? Whether it's after a breakup, a divorce, right? After losing a loved one, a trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you have something big like that happen, and breakups are included in trauma. Like it's not, we forget to think about that. I love the saying that like a breakup is the death of a dream
How so?
because you have a hope with that person. You've invested time and energy and you have an idealized life that is going to happen with that person. So you have to grieve that loss. And so I always tell people when you are in that traumatic space, the first thing is just stabilize yourself. Make sure you're eating, drinking, sleeping. Because when you're in true trauma or even breakup, and I know I went through this like in my divorce, I got so skinny. That's a normal part. It just happens. Like you have a hard time eating, you have a hard time sleeping, you keep thinking about that person or what happened. That's all normal. So all you've got to do is focus on stabilizing. Can you get a little bit of a routine? Can you try to sleep, even if you need to take a nap in the middle of the day? Are you eating? Are you reaching out for support to your friends, to family, anyone who will support you? If you can afford it or if it's available, professional, a therapist to help you work through things. And then when you get stable, you can start grieving. And that means like really letting go, allowing yourself to feel the feelings. You cannot heal what you cannot feel. And we want to bypass the hard part, but that's where the lesson is. That's like I need to feel the loss of that marriage. I need to feel the loss of my family. And then I could make meaning of it and I could get stronger from it. But sometimes I find that people with breakups, like they want to move on really fast. They want to find someone else, but then they end up transferring all that pain into their new relationship. They want to like, I'm going to have a glow up and I'm going to start dating in like 3 weeks. And it's like, you're not over that last person and you're just going to bring all of that baggage into this relationship. I always tell my clients, everyone shows up in their relationship if they've not done their work with 2 huge bags packed. And then you start beating your new partner with those bags. So you have to take some time to unpack your emotional baggage. That means taking care of yourself, feeling your feelings, talking things out, journaling, breathing, meditating, processing. When you get to a calm place where you feel good about yourself and your life, not healed, not perfect, but just better, then you're ready to start dating. Then you're ready to move on. I took 2 years after my divorce to be completely alone. I didn't date, I didn't do anything. I solely focused on myself, who I was, what I wanted, what I learned in that marriage. And I will say, you brought up a good point about like wasting time. I agree with you. I think we're always learning. But what's really interesting on the difference between men and women in relationships is almost all women say that they stayed too long. So I think that's very important that like I think when a woman knows that she's ready to leave, she needs to honor that. And I even didn't do that too, so I can say that from my own experience. And men, it's the opposite. They tend to have women always can have a relationship in their life off like the research shows that they say I stayed too long. Men, it's the opposite. They have the one that got away. They have the one where they messed it up and they let her go. So we do different things as typical men and women, not to, not for anyone who's not non-binary or whatever. It's not like we're all going to have, everyone might have both experiences, but it's more likely. So I do believe, yes, we're always learning and growing and every relationship comes into our life for a reason and all that matters. And it's good to see it that way, but also to like kind of learn to trust ourselves and to have that confidence in ourselves that when we're really done and we really know in our gut, like I gotta go, to listen to that because women stay much longer after they know and they usually regret it.
Yeah, since you bring up trust, that's I think is key when it comes to relationship, love in ourselves. So how do we rebuild trust? Because that feels almost impossible after going through something as traumatic as betrayal, right? Or someone cheated on you, without
Hmm.
bypassing the fear or like closing our heart, hardening our heart and try to go out and love again.
Yeah, well,
Well,
I've experienced that too. So definitely it's really, really hard. I will say betrayal trauma, if you've been cheated on,
mm,
it is the most damaging kind of trauma you can experience, and I'll explain why. When someone dies, that's very traumatic. When you get in a breakup, it's very traumatic, but it's one experience that does not change the past or the future. When someone cheats on you, it changes your past, it changes your reality. It
oh my, yeah.
ruins your entire past relationship. So you no longer look at your marriage as, or your relationship, whatever it was. Like, luckily, that didn't happen in my marriage, but it's happened in another relationship. Um, but it's like you look at everything as it didn't matter, it wasn't real, your
Mm,
reality was stolen from you, your past was stolen from you, and now you don't know what the future looks like. So it's a very traumatic. So I just want to honor that before I answer this and say that I know I've felt that in my body, and it's a terrible, awful thing. And if you're in betrayal trauma, please get support and read like books that are good about this. Um, but it always starts with regaining self-trust, especially after what we call intimate betrayal, which is where you're being cheated on, because your reality has been stolen from you. You've been manipulated, often gaslit. And the first thing that goes is trust, the self trust. How did I not see it? How did I not know? Well, that other person very much did not want you to see it. They did not want you to know. And so the first thing we have to do is start focusing on building my intuition again, trusting myself, taking time alone, figuring out how to reestablish that safety with the self. But all trust is self trust. If I can't trust myself, then I can't trust anyone else because I can't trust myself to walk away when I need to. So I always say trust of self, trust of other, trust of life. That's how it goes. And so, however, you need to rebuild that within yourself, which is reclaim your reality. Write out everything on one side of the paper that you thought was happening, and then what you found out was actually happening. And then go back and say to yourself, what were the little things that you actually saw? What were the little things you actually felt? Because it will be there. You just have to look for it. You'll
yeah,
remember, like, oh, I remember that night, because I remember in this particular, like, I remember that night when he said he was out with his friends and I felt like something was off. And that is a great exercise to do, to reclaim your reality, to see, oh, I did feel like something. When he told me that, or when he texted later, when he didn't call me, like I knew something was off. It'll be these little tiny things, but that's a great thing to reclaim your self trust. And then it's a process every day. The biggest one I give my clients is always keep promises to yourself every day. I don't care how small it is. If you keep telling yourself, I'm going to drink more water, I'm going to go to the gym, do it. Would you trust anyone on the planet who made promises to you every day and they never kept them? That's what we do to ourselves all day. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get lots of work done. I'm going to do, and we don't do it. So just find one small thing you can say, today I'm going to do this for me, and you do it.
by going through all these exercises and that you mentioned, there's a difference between sharing from experience and reliving our wounds.
Mhm.
Maybe by thinking back the relationship that happened, you are actually reliving the pain, the wounds, right? So how do you know when pain has been integrated into truth or lessons in life rather than still driving our choices?
Yes, that's a great question. And one of the best ways is that you may have to go over something a lot to really let it lose its charge. But you know that it's lost its charge when you can think about it and you don't really have, like, and this means you've already cried, you've already felt your negative feelings. But like, it's when you can think about an experience and you no longer have a reaction to it. You can talk about it. You can be clear about it. You can see the lessons in it. Like, I think about this with my mom. My mom was a very challenging person in my life, and I had to do a lot of forgiveness work and really work through that with her. And like, I can talk about her in such a different way now. I have such a different feeling when I think about her. I mean, when I was younger, I would think of her and I would just feel pain inside. And I wouldn't say that to anybody, but I did. And then now, like, when I think of her, I can think of, even though she was the most challenging person in my life, like I think of all the things that she taught me, how strong she was, like, And it's kind of like you can look back on those painful experiences and not like be excited about them. I'm not saying that, but it's like you can be like, wow, like when that person cheated on me, like I learned so much more about like boundaries and how strong I was and how to walk away and how to say no and all these things. And you feel a little bit like you don't feel defeated by it anymore. You feel like aware or stronger or different about it. Like you don't have this like heaviness. And I think a lot of people don't look back to see, is that still affecting me? They actually don't know, they're not consciously aware that that past pain is showing up in their present. Because I think that's what I see the most in my practice is they don't recognize it like something that happened even in a 17-year-old girl relationship. You know what I mean? They don't see that that's showing up in their relationships now. So I think your question even is great to help people, invite them to say like, hey, what's happened in your past that was really difficult? Have you processed it? Have you felt through it? Because my clients will tell me all the time that like they don't have any trauma, and then I'll find out like their parents were murdered. And I'm not joking. I've had that happen. I don't have any trauma. I'm good. Okay. And then like I'm like, oh, you're but okay. Yep, that's a big trauma.
But what if they didn't perceive it as a trauma? Because
Hmm.
does it count? Does it still count as trauma?
It does, because it's like I love to redefine trauma. Trauma
Okay.
is anything that disconnects us from feeling safe. So any experience I had that made me feel unsafe and changed the way I saw myself or the world is trauma. So sometimes that can be a horrible boss, that can be a bad boyfriend, that can be a bad experience on a subway. You know, it could be a lot of things that we don't think of as trauma. Even the psychological world in the West does not define trauma well. We talk about the big traumas, like, you know, rapes, muggings, like, but there's all kinds of trauma. And that's why I really also think that trauma affects confidence and relationships. And that's why at my core, at my root, I am a trauma expert because I've lived through so much trauma. Like I kind of joke that I could tell you what traumas I haven't lived through more than I have. Like I haven't quite been in like a plane crash or a boat crash, but I've lived through most other traumas you can have, whether it's death, divorce, childhood trauma, neglect, abuse. Like I've done it all. Um, and where do those show up the most? Confidence, self concept, self compassion, and relationships. So I always go back. Like the first thing I do with new clients is I usually do an intake and I really have them look at their history. But I didn't have some of those experiences on there because they'll have a like a trauma and I didn't like have it on my intake form because I didn't even think about your parent being murdered. And I've had two clients who've had that happen. But I had like the death of a parent, so they check yes. But then I realized like I need to get even more specific about like, well, how did they pass away? Because that much might be they passed away from cancer slowly over time and they got to say goodbye, or it could be like a very traumatic loss of, you know, like I have a lovely, beautiful, brilliant client, and like her father was murdered in his business. Like it was a horrible situation, and I didn't know that. She just kept saying like my father passed away. And then one day I asked like, "Oh." And it was beautiful that, you know, we got to work through that. But like again, she didn't see it. Just like you're saying, she didn't see it because she
Mhm.
didn't know.
I'm just thinking, for people who have been through a lot of traumas, and there are just two types of people, right? One is they're stuck in the victim mentality, like they're
Hmm.
saying, I'm broken, my whole life is wrong, right? The other type of person is just like what you mentioned, one of your clients. Nothing is wrong with me, right? I'm all good. My life is perfect. And when it comes to healing, there's this idea that something is wrong with us that we need to fix, right? We need to fix
Yeah.
ourselves. I'm broken. I used to think that I'm broken in my early like 20s, and that was just how I saw myself. So when it comes to healing, would you say that your approach is, because I think your approach is not about fixing ourselves, but
Mm-mm.
more on reclaiming ourselves. So what's the difference?
Yeah, well, I will say first and foremost, my client who had that experience was actually struggling with a lot of things. So we're like, I mean, she was like working through a lot of things in her life, and confidence was definitely one of them. And that was kind of funny because, like I said, I was kind of looking through her history, trying to find like, okay, what happened here? And she didn't even know to tell me that that was a big deal. So please, if you hear this, tell your therapist everything. Like, but also, yes, no one is broken. Like we're all here to learn. We're all going to have, no one gets out of this life without difficulty. What is typically broken is our mindset. And I get it. There's been times in my life, like I always share my story because I want people to know, like I come from such difficulty. Like I could write 10 books on all the crazy that I've been through. Like things have happened to me through no choice of my own that I could never have predicted. And it definitely could have made me just lay down for the rest of my life and say, why me? And your life will never change if you stay in that mindset. You just have to shift it enough to say, like, okay, this has happened. I can't change it, but I can heal it. I can walk through it. I can learn from it. I can grow from it. There's nothing wrong with me. If I choose to stay in the victim mode, which is always life is happening to me, everything bad happens to me, I never get a break, those kinds of things, when you think that way, you start subconsciously creating your life that way. And more bad shit happens to you. I just see it over and over and over again. And, some of us are here to be incredibly challenged. Like part of my ancestry, my heritage from my father is I'm Native American. So truly an American. And there's not many of us left on the planet, as you know. But one of the things that we really believe is that the healers of the group, what we call the shamans or the healers, always have the most difficult life experiences. Why? Because pressure creates diamonds. If you're here and you've been through a ton of difficult stuff, guess what? You've got a big life purpose. But if you don't get out of your own way, you're never going to grow from it. I have not met one extraordinary person who's not been through something horrible or difficult, or like I've actually worked with, I would say the least successful people I've ever worked with are like people who come from money. Like where their lives were so easy. Like I had a client one time who told me that she was like dead broke, and I was actually worried that she couldn't pay her bills, and she had $400,000 in the bank. And so it's just like, percent, like, yeah. So I would say like we kind of hope that we have it easy, and we hope that we're taken care of, and we hope for safety and security. And these are all beautiful human dreams. But the people who give it to themselves are going to be the most successful and the most happy. The people who are handed everything, they often don't grow, they don't travel, they don't do big things. Not always. They do. I mean, there's always an exception to the rule. But I'm just saying in general, I think that the greatest souls come in with the most difficult lessons. One of my gurus said it's the advanced path.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, because you didn't get to build the resilience needed in order to overcome all the struggles in life. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
build your personality, right? Your confidence, right? That you believe in yourself that you can overcome anything that life throws at you. So yeah, I love that reminder. Thanks for sharing. Now, how about, you talk about doing the real inner work, not just surface level personal development. I think I've done a lot of surface level personal development, like books, seminars, but I have done some real inner work as well, trust me. But it's just so difficult, right? But so
Mm-hmm.
tough. How do we know that we are actually doing the real inner work versus we are, just like surface level development?
It'll show up in your life how you're changing. If
Mm,
your reactions are changing, if you're getting better, even if it's slowly, like let's say you used to get really triggered when someone did something to you, like let's say when someone used to criticize you, it would trigger you for weeks. You would just keep thinking about it and replaying it and be so upset and how could they do that and all those kinds. And I'm just giving funny, like easy examples I think that most people can relate with. You're doing your inner work, you're doing the depth work when that gets shorter. So maybe it was a couple weeks it would bother you. Now it's like a couple days. And then you get to a point where you keep going, you keep looking at why does that bother me? What happened in my past? What is that? What do I think that means about me? We're talking like looking at your attachment style, your psychology, your beliefs, your core wounds. Like there's so much stuff to look at, your shadow work. But you will know that you're doing the depth work when you actually see shifts in your life, when healing shows up in your everyday life. You can do yoga and drink green juice and meditate and still be messed up. But if you can
exactly.
be calm and kind in the face of conflict, if you can have your head about you, um, if you can be giving even when someone else hurts you, doesn't mean you let them take advantage of you, but it means you don't let other people's actions change who you are.
Yeah.
Like my guru always said that how other people treat you is their karma, and how you treat them is yours.
It's powerful. Yeah. Especially with social media these days, right? It's just funny when you mention that, I think about how people are posting on social media like I'm meditating, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I know there are some people who are just trying to prove their worth. Like I'm good enough,
Absolutely.
I'm doing the work, right? I'm I'm all about personal development. But if you are truly confident in yourself, you're grounded in who you are, you don't need to tell people what you're doing, right?
Mm-mm. A lot of people on social media, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So, and I live in Los Angeles. I'm in Beverly Hills, California. I've encountered a lot of those people. I've even worked with one who was like a huge health influencer, and behind the scenes, she was smoking cigarettes and doing all kinds of stuff that you would never imagine. So, there's a lot of what I call shadow teachers, meaning that they pretend that they're doing it. But I don't care what you post on social media. I care how you show up. I care, are you kind? When someone leaves a negative comment, how do you take that? When someone says something to you that hurts your feelings, do you have a conversation with them? Do you know how to set boundaries? Do you know how to, like, I went through a divorce completely amicably. We didn't even use lawyers. Like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every time he went low or upset me, I just took a break and said, nope, this is not my story. I'm not letting us hate each other. I'm not letting someone that I loved, it's so easy, and it's actually easier to hate someone through divorce and to try to like disconnect from them. And, thank God, like to this day, we're still friends. Like I still watch his dog when I go out of, like he goes out of town, like I worked very hard, and and we're both good people, of course, but like the harder road is often the right one. And it's the one people don't want to take because they don't have the emotional maturity or the growth to do it.
Now, thank you so much for this conversation. I know I'm just loving this conversation so much, and
I know, me too.
I just feel like I'm talking to my bestie, really enjoy this. But for listeners who are listening to this, if they feel overwhelmed, to be honest, there's so many different healing modalities out there, right? And people sharing all the ways and tools and practices to heal and things like that. People get overwhelmed these days with, you know,
Oh
with
yeah, so much
overwhelm.
information.
Yeah, exactly. So, what would you suggest for people who are listening to this episode? After they have listened to this episode, where would you say would be the best place to start? If they feel stuck, if they feel overwhelmed, but they still want change.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. I feel like listen to how your overwhelm is showing up for you. So I think that everybody gets challenged either mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. And so all of our healing paths look different. If you're really struggling with something like anxiety, or your body always feels overwhelmed, or you're always anxious and you feel bad in your body, do some kind of body work. Start with breath or yoga or gentle exercise. Create a routine in your life. Start really learning about the nervous system. If it's depression, connect with other people. Don't isolate. Look for someone who specializes in what you're struggling with. If you are struggling with your spirituality, find a healthy, and spiritual difficulty shows up usually in like lack of purpose, lack of meaning, apathy. So start reading about something that interests you, that will connect you with something higher. Start meditating, get out into nature. But the biggest thing is listen to that thing in your gut. I always feel like everybody knows what they need to be doing, but they don't listen to it. And the very thing that we know and we are afraid of is the key to our transformation. I did yoga for years. I was terrified to meditate. And my guru actually had to say, I did yoga for 10 years. And he literally said, Tori, do you want to meditate, or do you want to be miserable? And I sat with that for a while. I was like, I think I want to be miserable. I don't want to sit with myself. And then I started meditating, and that was like, God, 15 years ago. But like the meditation was the very thing I was avoiding, and it changed my life dramatically. Like that is when I stopped reacting to everything. I truly became the observer of myself. I could always respond instead of react. I've been through so much hard stuff, like I said, my divorce, like so many things, and I have stayed calm through all of it. So if I didn't meditate though, that wouldn't be who I am. So each of our paths are unique. No one has all the answers for you. I think the universe will always show you a way. If someone mentions a book a couple times, read it, stop avoiding it. If you know you need to exercise, you know you need to meditate, or you know you need to eat better, just start there. It's that thing that we keep telling ourselves we're going to do over and over and over that is the key to our transformation. It is what everything you want is on the other side of what you avoid.
It's beautiful when you put it that way, you know. The thing that we are avoiding the most is the key to our transformation. It's so true, right? Because you are avoiding it for a reason. There's a reason that you're avoiding doing that, right? The thing.
Absolutely. Because
So
on some level, your mind body knows if I do that thing, I'm going to change. And we're all afraid of change. That's natural. Change feels like a threat to our nervous system. I could go a whole podcast on that alone. But ultimately, anytime we want to change, our body says, "Uh-oh, it's different. Will I be safe?" And so it avoids that. And so it's doing the hard thing. It's the discipline. Discipline is the key to freedom, and it took me a long time to learn that, so I'll share that.
thank you so much again for your time. Now, if people resonated with your work or your message, if they want to learn more about what you do or explore, an opportunity to work with you, where should I point them to?
Yeah, so my website, which is www.torijenae, TORIJENAE.com. And I have some freebies on there too, like a great, find your seven, it's a nice long free ebook. And it's like 7 of your core psychological wounds, how they show up, how to start healing them. So that's a great place to start, whether, it's an abandonment wound or like whatever it is that comes up for you. And you'll be able to kind of identify that for yourself. So that's a great way to connect with me, as on my website, or at Instagram at tori.jenae as well. You can always DM me there.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, guys, I'll put all her links in the show note below. Make sure you visit the show note. And thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, for doing the inner work, for choosing growth that doesn't require you to abandon who you are. Go follow Tori, reach out to her if you have any other questions, or you download the free ebook that she mentioned. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. Again, thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag findjoyjoanne_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.